In this tutorial, I want to talk about having more than one color as a background, or sometimes they call them gradients. Gradients are conversions or a transition from one color to another. Actually, gradients can be a transition from one color to many colors. This is a background option. So I'm going to go ahead and change here background. I think I've got blue. I'm going to change it to an option here. Another attribute of background is linear gradient. Now you can go ahead and simply go ahead in parentheses put as many colors you want. Red, yellow, blue. There you go. And you're good to go. So my background now will not be the color blue, but a combination of red, yellow, blue. Okay. Control S, save, and then refresh. There you go. So I've got red, yellow, blue. Okay. Okay. Next thing. Well, that's nice, but I don't want it going by default. Linear gradients go up, down. I wanted to go left, right. So quickly, we'll just go ahead. There is a simply, you can think of it as a color. To right, parentheses. I mean, to right, skip the parentheses, sorry. Put it in the parentheses, put a comma in it, and then Control S, and save it, refresh. Now my gradient is going from left to right. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about transparency to our gradients. So let's go ahead. Transparency is a color in CSS, or Cascading Style Sheets. You've got a couple other options. I did a video before, and I'm just not going to talk about the other options. I'll just leave it in my notes. So the next thing I want to talk about is, hey, I don't want left to right. I just want to be transparent to another color. So we can do transparent, and then in this case, we'll just make it to red. Okay. So then Control S. I want to go from transparent to red. I'm just going to go up, down, show, Control S, and then I get this transparency to red. As another one, quick aside, I can go ahead and change that percent. Hey, I want it to be like 75%. By default, I think it's 50-50, and gradually moves up to red. I can simply define a percent, whereas that gradient is 75% transparent. The rest, 25%, fades up into red. Okay, there you go. And then all of a sudden now I got a mostly transparent, 75%, and then I've got a little bit red, 25%. Now there's a couple other options with transparency. RGBA, which is the A. RGB, you guys know, is red, green, blue. The last one, A, stands for alpha. Okay, so an alpha means 0 is fully transparent, 1 is no transparency, complete color. The other one is hue, saturation, and light. A, HSLA. I put in my color, my percentage of light, and then I put in an alpha. I did a video. The video just ran too long, so I'm just going to move on. Okay, so I'll put those in my notes. I'll hopefully put it at the same time as this video. We'll just continue to move on. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is repeating. So all we got to do is, hey, I want to put repeating. So let's go ahead and put repeating, comma, linear gradient. Okay, now I want some colors rather than transparent. I can do it in transparency. Let's do red, yellow, and red. Okay, now the only thing with transparency is for it to repeat, it needs at least one of these colors to have a percentage. So 10%, we can define it for all of them. Okay, 10%. It can be red's going to be, yellow's going to be 10%, red will be 20%. But again, the computer needs to figure out how tight this gradient is. How much space do I have to repeat this? So let's go Control S, refresh, repeat, and then I get a repeating gradient. Okay, so I can actually do this. I can also do this by degree. So let's go ahead and change that real quick, just to show you some of the options here. You don't want to have it at a tilted angle, no problem. Simply go ahead and put in 45 DEG, parentheses similar to 2 right, Control S, refresh, and now it will go at a 45-degree angle. Okay, so again, you've got some options here that you can do in terms of repeating linear gradients. Okay, next one I want to talk about is radical gradients. Radical gradients, or I mean that's me, my bad English. Radial gradients, radial. So radial is basically gives you an oval shape. So let's go ahead and start with the basics. Radial, R-A-D-I-A-L, radial. Okay. Then we can go whatever. Let's just start with the basics. We'll skip degrees here. Just red, yellow, red. Just to get the default, and then we'll start to play games with the repeating. Very much like linear. So Control S, and oops, I have forgotten to get rid of comma. Control S. Okay. And then again, we'll just get the default. There you go. So I get this radial, like an oval to it. Now I can obviously go ahead and change those percentages to be what I want. I'm going to change this just to have green. Just the same color repeating again. I want to have little options here. So again, I can do maybe I don't know, 5%, 10%, maybe 20%, and then 75% red. Control S. Refresh. Oops. Let's see if I type something. Oh yeah, there you go. I can't type. Did not work. It could not deal with the dollar sign rather than percent. Percent, red, 5%, 25% radical gradient. Control S. Refresh. And then I got a radical gradient. Okay. Now, needless to say, I've got also the same thing I can do with radial gradients. I'm not going to go into, there's various keywords you can use with these gradients. I'm just going to go over circle. Again, I'll probably put out the notes. Again, for me, at least for my class, I just want you to be able to know the basics here. There's a bunch of options and attributes that I'm just simply not going to be able to cover. Even I myself just go look at a book as sometimes finding different attributes. So anyway, let's go ahead and do circle. That's one of the unique ones to a radical gradient, to a radial gradient, not radical. Control S, and then we'll move on. And then I get a circle gradient. Okay, so that's what we get. Okay, then I can do repeating finally. Again, I need that percent to get it to work. If I do not do percent, it will not repeat. So repeat. Repeating a radical gradient. I want circle 520, and then I'll just get rid of this, and then Control S, refresh, and then it'll repeat. Oops, again a mistake. It did not work, so I typed something wrong. Repeating radical gradient. I just can't see why. Maybe I cannot do circle. 5%, 7% red. Circle may not be an option here. Let's go back. Repeat. Oh, circle. Found my mistake. It's repeating. Circle, comma, green. Okay, now I not repeat. Repeating. Okay, Control S. Save. And refresh. Now again, most of the time in my class, what I do is, oops, nope, still not right. Something's wrong. Hopefully it's not too long, so I don't have to edit this video. Repeating a radial gradient. I'm going to get rid of the circle. Well, here. I've had problems with these spaces. Control S. Nope. I'm going to get rid of circle, because I'm not sure, maybe circle is the issue. Radical gradient, Control S. I am going to click on the first website, double check. There you go. I am not sure exactly what happened. Maybe it was just I cannot use the circle option with repeating gradient. Okay, so anyway, these are just the basics of gradients in HTML. Next lesson we'll talk about is how do I make my own custom gradients, because radial gradients and linear gradients are boring. I want to do my own little thing. We'll talk about how to do that next.